Coming up this week on the Markcast. Well, is it true? Is it actually true? Is the XFL actually thinking about moving on and pivoting?
Pivot! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
From Vegas. Reports coming out say the XFL is thinking about moving the Vegas Vipers to Arizona or Nashville. What is going on? We break it all down. Crazy news week. Then big time interview guest already scheduled before all the craziness this week. Randy Ambrosie, now friend of the podcast, CFL Commissioner, coming back on the show for a third time. We talk CFL Plus in America. We talk about Randy Ambrosie's legacy, the Edmonton Elks, Victor Cui, and more.
I try to get up. I try to serve our governors in the most honorable way I can. I try to be someone who the fans would have respect for, in that I'm clearly working hard to make our league as big and powerful as it can be, and do all of that in a way that brings credibility to who I am as a person.
Then Pat Ruffino joins us, not only talking about the XFL Vegas Vipers news, but we have XFL and USFL to the NFL watch list. Which players stuck on rosters and practice squads after the final cuts this week? We have you covered.
It was good to see that there wasn't as much cannibalization on that front, that a lot of these coaches and player personnel people valued the experience of these guys, not only playing in a game, but also being in football shape. So if they are, air quote, coming in to be a camp body, they can provide that good look. And there's more value to give, your time and effort versus this guy versus a college kid who might have been a 7th round, 6th round pick, got his head all big because he got a $70,000 signing bonus and then didn't put in the rest of the work for 2.5 months.
And then two outstanding CFL player interviews this week. Cody Fajardo, now friend of the show, Montreal Alouettes quarterback, joining us for a fun chat. And then Steven Dunbar Jr. of your now no longer winless at home in an eternity, the Edmonton Elks, Steven Dunbar joining us, wide receiver there. Should be a good show. I hope you guys enjoy. Like and subscribe. Hey guys, welcome to the Markcast. Reed here. A crazy news week, a busy week, both with work and the XFL stuff, watching the waiver wires, players getting signed, all that stuff. Thanks for joining us. Hey guys, Future Reed here with a little breaking news update. Just had this video put to bed, edited, ready to upload, got done running on the treadmill, found out the XFL had sent out a letter today, photoed here just because you don't want to see me right now on camera, from Jason Ganella, the Senior Vice President of Ticket Sales for the XFL. The letter states, quote, "Following feedback from you, our fans, players, and local partners, the XFL has determined that the team will not return to play at Cashman Field for the 2024 season. We appreciate your support and patience as the league reviews all of our options. We will provide information on a new home for the Vipers as soon as possible. If you have any questions, please call." So obviously, Pat and I recorded our conversation earlier today. All of that still stands, talking about the potential Nashville relocation or the Arizona relocation, but certainly more smoke now with this fire about Vegas, whether they play somewhere else in Las Vegas, the Vipers do, which obviously we went through all of that last year with why they can't play at UNLV and why Allegiant Stadium and all of that. This really speaks to me that the Vipers are done in Vegas. I thought it was odd that they optioned to start selling season ticket pre-sales back in April, I believe, like they did. Seemed weird timing. Mike Mitchell, who obviously has been reporting all this all along, he put out on his Twitter feed a very similar message that was sent to the actual XFL team members themselves, the rest of the staff there, basically letting people know, we have informed the public today that we are not returning. Let me see if I can pull that up. It says, team, today we informed Cashman Field that we will not return to the building for the 2024 season. Following feedback from fans, players, and local partners, we have determined that it is in the league's best interest to find a new home for the Vipers. My other takeaway with this, and I'll put the screenshots of all of this, but obviously give Mike Mitchell lots of credit for his fantastic reporting. They're keeping the Vipers name in here, so obviously that speaks to, like Pat and I talk in our conversation, you'll hear it coming up, do we have the Nashville Vipers, do we have anything else like that? But Interesting. Like I said, a lot more smoke here. It certainly seems like the Vipers' time is done. Check out Pat and I's conversation. I've posted a short as well on the YouTube channel, but just obviously wanted to update this here late in the day on Thursday, about 6 o'clock Pacific, getting this all to bed here for you guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Hope you enjoy Randy Ambrosie and I's chat, and then Pat and I deep dive on the Vegas situation, and then talking all of the XFL and USFL signings to NFL rosters. Thanks, guys. Have our big time interview, Randy Ambrosie, Commissioner of the CFL. We recorded that late last week. We had pushed out the episode early before, the CFL games last weekend. So it should be good, fresh. I know Randy's been making the rounds this week. Curious to see which publications write up certain podcast episodes and which ones don't. We'll see. I think Randy was really good. I hope you guys enjoy. I think getting a little familiarity with Randy at this point, third time on the show, I think it's fun. I think Randy had some good answers talking about his legacy, what he hopes to, to be remembered as the CFL commissioner. All of that should be good. Like I said, really appreciate Pat joining. We were already kind of tracking the whole XFL and USFL player signings to the NFL, and then all the Vegas Vipers stuff came down, which, like I talked about with Pat in the episode or in our interview, just weird timing with the report coming out from the CBS reporter. And then it was like Mark had the article ready to go, but Mike's been talking about it forever. So I don't know. I've had messages sent my way too. Something is certainly awry with the Vegas Vipers. We will see what comes out of that. And then really appreciate the Montreal Alouettes and the Edmonton Elks making players available this week. Super appreciate Cody Fajardo coming back on. Like I said, it's good. Cody and I kind of got through all of that stuff last time with the blocking and everything on Twitter. So it's great just to be able to sit, chat football, chat Cody's life, and kind of all of that stuff. Really appreciate that. And then Steven Dunbar joining from the Edmonton Elks, big time, a couple weeks for them, and he's doing good, and Trey's looking good. So lots of excitement there. I hope you guys like and subscribe. Still trying to get to 3,500 subscribers. I think as the rain begins to fall behind me here, I think we're quickly transitioning out of the summer season for the Markcast. I think we'll be moving inside at some of the interviews inside this week and some out. But as the rain is falling, I think it's needless to say the summer season has ended. Here for the Markcast, we'll get back inside the home studio. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Lots of work this week. No NFL this weekend, last kind of weekend. So maybe we'll get a little viewership bump here before kickoff next week. Still trying to figure out what we're going to do next week with the big NFL kickoff on Thursday. So like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Well, here we are back for the third time now on the podcast. We have the commissioner of the CFL, Mr. Randy Ambrosie. Is it fair to call you friend of the show now? Three times?
Friend of the show. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I thought we already decided that.
Well, that's good. I'm excited to have you here mid-season checkpoint. We had you on after kind of the post talks with the other leagues and then the CBA stuff last year. A little more smooth sailing right now. How are you feeling here halfway through the season?
Well, candidly, really excited. It's been a great year so far. Look, if we going to go back to, before the season started, new ownership in Montreal, Pierre-Karl Palado, and the excitement that he's brought to that market. We've got the season up and running. The football's been incredible. One of the things that we often forget that it isn't just 3 down, but it's all 3 phases of the game. And one of those phases that's been firing on all cylinders for us is our kicking game. And, we've had a lot of scoring on our special teams, the special teams element of our game. And that's one of the things that makes us fun, fast, and exciting, is something we're very, very proud of.
Something, we've talked about quarterback concerns, right? And obviously we have leagues here in the States now that we're talking about. A lot of injuries, everything going down. We've had a lot of kind of crazy scenarios. We had Crump Sanity and everything else. Are you surprised with, how much these guys have been able to step up now? I mean, it could have been a far worse situation.
Well, it is part of the reality of sports, that injuries happen. And injuries, the negative side is you take a young athlete and somebody that's performing at a high level and they get knocked out. And of course, you never want to see that. And we want to get them back as quickly as we can and get them back healthy. But the flip side of that has always been that it gives somebody an opportunity and your next stars begin to emerge. And really, that's what we've been seeing, is these young players who have been given a chance now. and they start to perform. And this cycle. It's I'm not going to sing you the theme song from The Lion King, but the cycle of life here. I feel like there's maybe we should have Timon and Pumbaa on and have them sing along with us. But this is how it works, and you don't know where your next superstar comes from, but it almost always, and maybe all too often, comes when somebody gets hurt and somebody gets a chance. And look, a famous example of that we all talk about is what happened with Tom Brady, right? It was an injury that resulted in him getting his shot, and he went on to having, I understand, a pretty good career.
Yeah, pretty good for this thing. You talk, kicking and all that, exciting play. What are you most proud of this season? I got the email and all the demographics are up and digital impressions and all that. What are you, because it was a rocky couple of years here, just kind of getting through everything that had to happen.
Well, I think what I'm most proud of is our board of governors and our presidents, and how we've all rallied together around, really making investments in the league and, building a foundation for the league's future. I think when you come through a difficult time, you can argue, you can go one of two different ways. You can pull back or you can move forward. I'm most proud of the fact that our governors and our presidents have really chosen to move this league forward. And you only have to look at the investments we're making in this social digital platform, the work that's going on, and having that kind of set us on a path to creating a new generation of fans. And then, the results of that, our 25 to 54 demographic, up 29% year over year. Well, that doesn't just happen. That happens when you do all the heavy lifting in the background. I am really excited to be part of the league and a part of a group of governors who are committed to the future. To me, that's the thing that makes me most excited.
Reading through the comments of the CFL article that had all this kind of the press release stuff, I understand, TSN, necessary partner, right, pays, covers a lot of the expenses for the league. People still upset about, like the broadcasts are dated, or we want to see, we were tired of the panel. We just had Milt Stegall on this week, so I'm not, I'm not tired of the panel. But what do you, in terms of like changes of that to kind of revamp that? Because I do agree with, the waggle and all of that. You guys are making strides. So how can the TV broadcast kind of mirror that?
Well, look, there's always a conversation going on with our partner at TSN about how do we take that next step together. And we do. I think, look, I have to say they have been a great partner for the league. And there's not even a part of me that isn't proud of our relationship with them. I think this is what we do. We work at getting better. This is what the whole world of sports is. You work at your craft and you look for opportunities to get better. One of the things that I think we can be proud of is that we're doing, it's one thing to kind of poke somebody and say, do more, but it's better to do more yourself. And then create an environment where everyone wants to raise their game because what they're seeing is so positive and so encouraging. Like, this is what's happening around our ownership table. What we have Amar Doman join, and Amar kind of just creates such a level of energy. And we all feel it when Amar enters the room, but it's not just Amar. It's so what's going on in Toronto and what Bill Manning and Chris Schufeld and Michael Clements and the whole organization are doing. There's a lot of momentum in Toronto. It's what Pierre-Karl Palado, but then you have to say it's John Ruddy and Roger Greenberg in Ottawa and what they're doing. And then you think about Bob Young and Stelco and Scott Mitchell and Matt Afnick and what they're doing. It's contagious. What Winnipeg is doing, what Wade Miller and Mike Pyle, their board chair, are doing, what's always been going on in Saskatchewan, with Greg Ewell and Craig Reynolds and their board and their team, looking at John Bean in Calgary and Calgary Sports and Entertainment. We're pulling each other forward. So what that does is it creates an environment of excellence. And nobody's going to say that we got it all figured out. I'm not making a case for perfection. I'm making a case for a group of people that have committed to the future. And I think when you do that, everybody around us will seek ways to improve their craft. So I've got nothing but compliments. I think we're all in this together, and that's what I love about a partnership, and what I love about the partnership with TSN. We are with them, and they are with us.
Obviously, the elephant in the room here, listing off and people working on all the different teams. Obviously, Victor Cui and kind of that departure, and he'd been on the show a bunch, friend of the show. How big of Edmonton struggling with momentum this year? Obviously, they got their first win, and we look here for the home win against Ottawa. But what kind of gap in the departure of his? Because it seemed like there was at least some momentum going, energy in Edmonton.
Yeah, look, you can't get me to say anything but great things about Victor. My experience with him was just so positive. But look, I think their board, led by Tom Richards, they felt like they needed to make a change, and I respect that. Look, there's work to be done there. There's work to be done everywhere. But in Edmonton, the one thing I'm not going to bet against is I'm not going to bet against that organization. I'm not going to bet against that city. We can it is the city of champions, and it had that title. It has that title. It has that reputation for many good reasons. And I know what that city is capable of. So they'll do the work. They'll and as you said, there's some momentum there. They got to win. They got to win under their belt now. They brought Rick Lawlisher in, and Rick is I think it's an understatement to say that Rick is a highly, highly regarded seasoned veteran, and Rick will do a lot there. And then they'll set themselves on a path for long-term success. So, Edmonton is having a bit of a down moment, but that down moment is on the heels of generations of remarkable success.
What would be your message to the Edmonton fan base?
I'd say, they have been a family. That city has supported the Edmonton Football Club for generations. And I'd say, stick with them. Support them, because that city's brought a lot of joy to that city over the years. And you can just go back and chronicle all the amazing players that have added value, how much that team has added to the community. I just say stand by that team, because they're not very far away from coming back, and they'll continue to make that city proud.
In terms of Trey Ford, his performance, not only just as a Canadian, but as someone that's, worked well last year, coming into this year, seeing his success in Edmonton, really curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's exciting. I was asked earlier about about the Canadian talent in our league, and I don't think the Canadians have ever been better. In fact, I know they've never been better, as much as, every generation thinks they're the best generation to play the game. But this generation of Canadians are truly remarkable. And he's an example of, the development of the Canadian talent in the game of football is quite fantastic. And look, we got a lot of Canadians playing in the NFL. A young man named Nathan Rourke, who put on quite a show for all of us last year, is putting on quite a show in the NFL. And what it is, it's just evidence of a football. It's a football country. Okay, we're known for hockey, but it's a football country. Got a lot of great athletes that are playing the game, and these great athletes are now on the CFL stage, not just as great Canadian players, but as great football players. And that's the thing that really excites me. And we continue to see developments in our, junior football, in our college football, and certainly in our amateur football ranks around the country. That's really exciting.
In terms of, growing the game in America, I, live in Seattle here, been utilizing the CFL Plus this year. I want to know feedback. Have you gotten positive feedback? I know the numbers, we don't do all that with CBS Sports and all that, but I'm curious because I speak with a lot of Canadians and they go, well, on paper, this is a really great deal, right? You get all this. I go, I live through this every day. It's challenging, right? You can't stop the games. It's not on demand. Not all the games are available on there. What has been your thought of the CFL Plus in America?
Yeah, you know what? I think it was the right first step. That's what I like most about it. It was the right first step. It was created. The opportunity to do it was created because we have a great partner in CBS Sports, who showed us a pathway to working with them and doing something new and innovative with CFL Plus. as we negotiated the terms of that deal with with the CBS Sports, we didn't have a lot of time to implement the full strategy. So we took a really smart first step, and there are many steps to take. In fact, you know what? In some ways, that's our story. It's that iterative, take a step, improve it, take another step, improve it. I think that's going to be how this is going to work. But look, we're glad we've done it. It's not the destination. It's a step in a long-term process that we ultimately believe will pay very handsome dividends for us. Look, in the end, why watch us? Because our game is fun, fast, and entertaining. And I don't think we should be shy to say that when you look at all three phases of the game, that we have perhaps the funnest, fastest, most entertaining brand of football in the world. We should be proud of that. I'm not arguing best. I'm talking about entertainment. I'm talking about athletes that perform. I'm talking about a game that is fun to watch. That's what the CFL is all about. And we're just so excited about what we've done and the future we have ahead of us.
In terms of, utilizing more advertising on there, I'm sitting watching, generic hip hop rap video songs over like black. Yeah. I mean, I think there's work to be done. A couple here, I'll get you out of here, I promise. We've had, obviously the expansion talks the last 2 years, and both times you've been on the show. Is there any reason to feel here end of August that we're any closer than we were 2 years ago when you were on here?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and I'll answer it this way. I think during my time, I think we've been advancing towards this. We've certainly, the board, has made a commitment to expansion as a priority. That's a formal commitment. I think for a long time we were moving the ball, in the right direction. I feel like we're in the red zone. I think there's an opportunity to do this now. And there's a lot of things that are positive. But here's the thing about the red zone, and this from your very seasoned perspective. Just because you're in the red zone doesn't mean you score, right? You tend to score more often when you're in the red zone, but you don't always score. And this is the challenge we have in front of us, is to take all the good work that's been done, all the momentum. Touchdown Atlantic this year was a blockbuster success. It wasn't a little success. It was a blockbuster success. And to take that now and find a way to, cross the goal line and score, that's what we have in mind. That's the mandate I have from my governors, and that's what I'm working towards.
Last question for me here, I promise. In terms of expansion, this would aid to that. We were talking on one of our pregame shows a couple of weeks ago, the long history, all the commissioners, everyone that's been involved in this league, and God willing, the CFL exists for another 110 years. What would you want your legacy to be as a commissioner here for a long period of time? What would you be proud of to be known as for being, your whatever you've done for the CFL?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, honestly, I think it's a very interesting question. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. You know what? What I want to do is I want to go to work for the governors. I want to go to work for the fans. I want to be somebody who is just works hard day in and day out and do everything humanly possible to take this league to where I've always believed it can be. And it's a great game. It's a great league. I still feel like we got another gear or two that we shift up. We step on the clutch and we shift that we can slingshot forward. Legacies and talk about legacies. That's for other people. That's for other. Maybe the pundits can spend some time on that. For me, what I'm going to do is do what I do every day. I try to get up. I try to serve our governors in the most honorable way I can. I try to be someone who the fans would have respect for, in that I'm clearly working hard to make our league as big and powerful as it can be, and do all of that in a way that brings credibility to who I am as a person. I think if you do those things, someday somebody's going to talk about your legacy. I don't expect it'll be me, because by that point, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just play a lot of golf at that stage and have fun with my family and friends.
Well, Mr. Ambrosie, I really appreciate it. We'll see you up in Hamilton. We have all of our things booked, so we'll see you up there. Grey Cup should be fun.
Yeah, we'll come again and watch our games, have fun. Again, love the fact that you're following us, and shout from the rooftops. Funnest, fastest, most entertaining brand of football in the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir.
Take care. Bye now.
Thank you.
Great to talk to you.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye now.
Well, Pat, it's been a hot minute here since the USFL days, and we had you on talking, what was that, preseason stuff. We have Pat back here with Sarge, so his dog might chime in a little bit. That's okay. We're keeping an eye on it. Pat Rufino, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm going to try to mute my mic as much as you can. I got a 17-year-old dog here, and I mean, he's kicking. You know, he still thinks he's 14, or he still thinks he's 4. But if you hear him in the background, everyone, I apologize for that.
That's okay. Living lives here. Welcome back, everyone. XFL news to talk about. Obviously, we were going to have Pat on to do the NFL cuts for the USFL and the XFL. We have the XFL Vegas Vipers potentially relocating. Kind of weird situation this week. I have thoughts about that, so we'll get that off the top. And then welcome back all the other XFL podcasts that are now talking XFL news here. When we've been here every week, but this was a bizarre story, and this came out the August. What was that? Tuesday. We're sitting there, and it was this guy, Dennis Dodd, who for some reason has blocked me on Twitter. I've never interacted with the man at all. He works for CBS, tweeting out, hearing more buzz about the XFL's Vegas Vipers relocating. And, we all have known, and Mike's talked about it in the group chat, and we've talked about it, even since the beginning of the season. Hey, this isn't a good situation. What are they doing? They're doing season ticket pre-sales now. That's kind of weird. And it was weird to me that then 18 seconds later, Mark had this article out, exclusive, whatever, talking, and that they're looking at Nashville, they're looking at Arizona State under consideration, and basically crediting Mike, because I don't think Mark has any firsthand knowledge of the situation at all. What did you make of this? Because it really seems like it came out of the blue here, and then it was like, here's info dump.
I mean, the only parallel I can think about it is kind of like the leak we had with the Houston stadium, where it's this something comes out and then we all we're all just kind of talking in our circles about it, and then it becomes true. I don't like Cashman Field. I don't think many people did. I know there was the thing with the UNLV stadium and then Allegiant Stadium about how that would have been the more appropriate venue. But I mean, hindsight's 2020, and maybe things were said behind closed doors that don't come to fruition. If you work in business, how many deals start to happen and then don't because reasons untold. But I mean, going to Nashville to me is just kind of I don't know, man. Nashville's getting pretty congested, and someone who was recently in Nashville a couple months ago, I mean, it's semi-local to me, a 4-hour drive from me, so I'd probably go down there. But I just feel like the Vegas, and I don't, we hear all the sports betting that comes up every 5 minutes with the XFL. It just kind of seemed like a match made in heaven. And Reed, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the Vegas franchise was they all had a franchise, right? Like The Rock had San Antonio, Danny had Orlando. Wasn't this Jerry Cardinale's franchise from what, we talked about?
Yeah, Mike Mitchell had said back that Jerry was the one that really petitioned for that he was the one. And to me, it's odd because you really lose your West Coast flavor then, right? And we know that the USFL is in Memphis, right? So that's odd as well, getting, like you said, getting congested there. To me, I had been hearing Vegas, besides Mike, I had been getting messages back is whenever Andy and I did that, the XFL's road path to the offseason, whenever we did that show, I woke up getting messages of hey, hearing Vegas, hearing Rod Woodson's going to be out, hearing kind of all of these things. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's kind of figure out what's going on here. Obviously, the Rod Woodson thing came down, right? He's no longer there, and Blevins is brought in as the coach. So, if it's 1 foot over the other, one shoe's falling and now the other one. What I don't like about this is once someone that's non-XFL talks about it, oh, Dennis Dodd talked about it, now we can talk about it. We're Mike's been saying this for months. Literally for months. So, I mean, I'm glad that now it's out there and people are talking about it in Arizona State. I don't know if that's any better or worse. I've heard the facilities there maybe aren't as good. I think Max was messaging me that. That's what I don't like is like that's why I champion our own media. And then like Mark here, like, oh, Dennis talked about it. We can like, this is a story now.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that the case though? Like, personal example was I broke the thing about like the AJ McCarron thing, right? Like his passing yard or passing touchdown and Danucci's passing touchdowns. And then, Florio retweeted my thing or some, like everyone. And then like even something more minor is like when XFL News Hub did their MVP, which the XFL, proper did not do an MVP. And, everyone's saying like, it was funny because I met someone new today earlier and they brought up the XFL and I was like, yeah, I do work with them. And he's like, yeah, AJ McCarron won the MVP. And I was like, he didn't. He did. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, that was like the website like I write for, I work with. We like named him the MVP and it grew legs. And, I'm pretty sure a lot of people think Von Hutchins is white because of the picture that got tweeted around of the AI version of Mike Mitchell, which I've talked to people in the league about, which they thought that was kind of funny because they're all like, they thought, we got a lot of traction of that at News Hub, which, I'm pretty proud of and whatnot. But, yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like, hey, man, this thing's been going on, Mr. Dodd. I appreciate you, recognizing this. And, I'm not saying that, like, the XFL is going to petition the MLS as far as becoming that fifth cog in, like, American national sports because – I mean, the MLS has been around for God knows how long, but if the XFL or the USFL or if any spring football league, we made the joke, right? The QFL in 2036, the quality football league. If any of these spring football leagues, get their footing and like start making some moves and whatnot, like, you're going to have your air quote grassroots movement who's been doing this all the time. And like, I just hope that those people, don't get forgotten along the way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it now. The national thing, like I said, feels odd just because of obviously USFL, not only having a team there, but having a hub there. And we don't know kind of what that's going to look like next year. The Tempe thing is interesting. We talked as well. Houston, right, the TDECU, they're doing renovations. So they're probably going to have to move to Rice Stadium, right? So like that's going to change. I think it's fine. To me, this isn't the end of the world. I thought it was weird when they announced it was like on April Fool's Day. Hey, we're doing preseasons for the Vegas Vipers for next year. And I'm like, do you guys know what day it is? But I mean, if you're going to do it now. I can't imagine, shout out the 6,500 people in Vegas that went to those games. But I don't think you're losing a massive, more than just like, hey, this didn't work and we're adapting now.
Yeah, and like I like that the USFL is in a separate market. I like that the XFL is in a separate market because something that we've talked about ad nauseum with the people of Birmingham is like, hey man, you're asking these people, you can make, and they did in 2022. They made a lot of those games very affordable, very free for like all that stuff. You're asking me to give you 10 Saturdays in the heat in Birmingham, like. Tennessee is a big state. I believe Memphis and Nashville, an hour and a half, 2 hours from each other. There are going to be people in that middle ground or like people from Nashville who moved to Memphis and vice versa who just love football because, they like football in the South. You're kind of expecting them to hold that bat, like compete with that, bag. And I know they don't really care about each other in some senses. Obviously it's a competition, but, I just feel like that dilutes your market. Like you want to be the coolest team in Tennessee. Okay, great. Like instead of, having 6,300 people go to your game in Vegas, now you have 4,600 people because like, you got people who are in Memphis that want to go to Memphis games because they live 5 minutes away, but they're only going to Nashville games because they love, they just happen to be Nashville residents. I don't know. I don't like that. Like competition's great, but I just feel like it dilutes both markets for them. So, I mean, I think they both stay away from New York or, until the New Jersey Generals go there. But I mean, I'm not against Arizona. I know a lot of people want want to bring back a more West Coast team, I'm not against it. I don't think LA is the right move right now. Maybe San Diego.
Yeah, I was just looking on here. I was Googling, just trying to figure out, because obviously they're not playing in Nissan Stadium. So kind of trying to figure out, because the ASU mentioned in the article. That is, like you said, there's a weird spring football like condescension where like you live in the market, like you need to go support it because you have it. Like, you were talking, we've had that at the Birmingham, and like Seattle got a lot of that this year where it's like, why, like, you people, like, you live in Seattle, like you need to, like, and people were even criticizing me. I'm like, I got to work. I got a wedding. We have Kraken tickets that cost 3 times as much as these tickets cost, and they're in the Stanley Cup playoff run. Like, people have obligations, so it's hard, and it really is like, if Nashville or Arizona, if you're getting this thing, then you do feel like, okay, we're like obligated now. We got to really support that, and like, we didn't decide that. It was like Birmingham. We're putting one in Detroit. Like, Detroit, you need to go out and support it. Maybe Detroit was like, hey, we didn't even want that. Like, maybe, that's why I always like the idea of the USFL hubbing everyone and then like awarding teams out of like maybe markets that felt like they deserved it more. Any thoughts? Are we higher or worse on the potential Nashville locations or Tempe with the ASU facilities?
I'd like them to stay in Vegas. Kind of clean it up a little bit. I think brand continuity is very important. I'd like that they brought back the air quote Vegas franchise from 2001. But I mean, it'd be ASU, like, bring back the Hot Shot. I think the Hot Shots did pretty well. Salt Lake is another market that I'd love to see one of these leagues go into, and then follow that up. Nashville is kind of kicking down like to 4. I would almost rather see them go back to Tampa than Nashville.
I've looked on here. I was just kind of curious about this because we did have a thought when they announced the Vegas Vipers. Arizona does in fact have Vipers. This is the homework I'm doing right now, and so does Tennessee. So they would be fine with either the Tennessee Vipers or the Arizona Vipers. So at least we know that. I don't know. The Arizona thing is cool. Like I said, I think I don't like crowding the East Coast there. I like having a little bit more West Coast presence. The USFL, I think, already really struggles with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to say people are afraid of the West Coast. I just think, like I think Andy said it a couple times. It's like LA, like the Rams have trouble filling their tickets, and they won a Super Bowl and whatnot. Like, I think San Diego would be the next, like, would be up there. San Diego, Salt Lake, Tempe. I mean, I'm not too giddy about what's the word I'm looking for, about the East Coast load up or the West Coast load up. I mean, I'm in St. Louis, so nothing really changes for me. I might have to go to a Nashville game, which, it's another area to look at and whatnot. But I mean, I'm not too giddy about it myself. You gotta think though, it would actually not really jerk around the conferences though, right? They would stay in the north.
Yeah,
right?
if they kept the Arizona, they got to keep Arizona for that. Otherwise, things do get a little more convoluted. I think if you bring Nashville into that, I would get rid of the divisions. We've talked about this. And we were flamed, and then look how the playoffs worked out. Now it's like, hey, maybe we had the right idea all along. I mean, you're still a flight, right? I mean, so you're adding that in. It really makes Seattle the outlier on the West Coast if you do pull the Vegas one. Like, if you're just looking at a map of like the reach of a league, it does really make Seattle as kind of the outlier, which we are already. I mean, I'm kind of used to that when we get to like concert tours and bands come to town, and like we'll go to LA or we'll go to Portland. We don't necessarily always make it up to Seattle. So I get that, but it's interesting. It's just weird that this like just became news all of a sudden, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, it is what it is. Seattle is on the tippy toe of the country. Some people call it Southern Canada. So
no, but who calls it Southern Canada?
I just did, and it's pretty cool, right?
I lived here my entire life, not one person. Anyway, but let us know, like I said, I think news is going to be coming out. Like I said, I had the whole Woodson thing kind of like, hey, I don't know if this is happening. And then that obviously came down, the Vegas thing here. So this is exciting, good, good offseason XFL news to talk about here. It's a good week too. There's no NFL football on this week. CFL isn't playing until the weekend. So maybe we'll get a couple more hits on that. Do you have anything else on the Vegas Vipers situation?
Not really. I mean, hopefully this all just kind of comes out and just kind of evens itself out and whatnot. I mean, brand continuity goes a little bit of a way with me. I think I talked about it at one point. It was like I met people who were in the Ozarks who didn't go to Battlehawks games in 2023 because they were afraid they were going to leave. It's like, I think Vegas is obviously more of a transient town, but are we going to, do I want my heart broken again? Something coming to Nashville? I don't know.
I guess my last note on this would be I'm surprised that San Diego wasn't in the mix just because that kind of originally that's been a floated out idea. They have the stadium there. Andy Murray is kind of champion that with the MLS and they play rugby and kind of everything else. They're right there. The Steelhead or whatever that's called there. To me that seems weird, and I saw a lot of comments on there about it, about that not working out. So about what people questioning, like, well, why didn't they want to go to that? I'm just trying to look up what the name of that stadium, Snapdragon Stadium. I knew it was something with an S. So I don't know if that gives any pause as well, because that would keep. To me, San Diego makes the most sense of any of them because you keep the West Coast. You don't have to worry about Arizona. We keep the conferences, kind of all that stuff. Any thoughts on San Diego?
I mean, it's got a good pedigree with the fleet. You could bring back the fleet. San Diego Vipers has a nice little coast to it. Maybe change up the color scheme, bring it back to that. Something you could do if you want to get real goofy is because there is marine aviation out there. They do have it's like I think it's like a Viper is like a helicopter nickname or something like that. I'm pretty sure it's like the AH-1 Zulu Viper or something like that. So that'd be pretty cool. You have a helicopter on the side, you keep the Vipers, and then on the other side says Snake. We used to put Vipers on our helicopters when I was in Afghanistan. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, there you go. Hey, Reed, I have one in one of those, by the way. Not high. I just did a thing taxi around, but I have done that. It is terrifying. But yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could do that, and then that's something you can do. Miramar, a lot of and this is totally unrelated, but a lot of the testing and R&D for these helicopters was done in California, so not a crazy thing at all. So, yeah, I mean that's some useless knowledge for you on that front. But I mean, we'll see. I'd like to see something come back to San Diego football wise for them. I don't think the Aztecs jazz as many people up as we think.
No, and I think this would be funny because the Vipers, because the Battle Hawk was originally that was a plane, and they put it more of the the history is more of the Battle Hawks into a bird. Like that was originally like a battle, like that was supposed to be kind of a military plane. So it would be interesting to have both of these, but. No, I mean, I think people deserve it. I think, San Diego, like you said, I think deserves that. So it would be good for them. And like I said, kind of keeping that East Coast flair. It's just weird to me that wasn't brought up in the thing that, to me, unless stadium negotiations there, Andy has talked ad nauseum, like they're taking anything, they're trying to book out that stadium. Like, I don't know if it's just full, whatever. To me, that makes way more sense than Nashville. Nashville feels like the outlier. I like Arizona or San Diego. Keep it West Coast.
Keep it West Coast.
All right, so original bringing on here, we're talking that we have the big cut down days Tuesday and then the waivers and everything. Now we're finally, I mean, this is still fluid and people are going to still get cut and brought on and throughout the year, but we kind of at least have a clearer picture right now of who is making it in XFL and USFL. Those keeping track, XFL had one player be signed, stick onto the roster. We had a couple on like the injury reserve, right? And then we had two from the USFL. Do you want to run down who made it on?
For the practice squads and whatnot.
We'll do main roster first because it was Brandon Aubrey, right?
You have Brandon Aubrey, you have LeBrian Ray, and then you have Cavante Turpin from last year. I couldn't find anyone else. I might be missing someone, so if I did, apologies on that. but this is going into 2020 from the 2023 class. This is who remained. They still had a decent amount. The USFL still had a decent amount of guys, continuing from last year. Micah Abernathy, who spent time with the Packers and Falcons, he's on the practice squad. You have DeMarcus Gates, he's on the practice squad still with the Bears after getting cut. Alex Akingbulu, he's on the practice squad for the Commanders. Dominique Davis, he got to the practice squad for the Bengals. And these are guys who, outside of Akingbulu, all showed up in a regular season game. Zuber is kind of a weird one because he's on there's a couple guys who got put to the injured reserve. Last I checked, Isaiah Zuber was still on the injured reserve. So, I mean, last year, and I'm digging into my memory bank, I believe we had 28 total players who got signed onto an active roster or practice squad or were on an NFL payroll at one point at the season. I believe 24 was the high water mark. Usually we coasted around that 19 to 21, like throughout the 18 weeks and whatnot. Towards the end of the year, you had a lot of elevations. You had long snappers. You had like James Morgan, did a quick cameo. You had, Case Cookus, Brock Miller. So there's still plenty of time for more guys to get looks as injuries come up and whatnot as well. And then you add into, obviously you have a new layer of competition. That number is going to, it's going to be cannibalization of both groups, which is pretty expected, right? Like we saw over 100 players, around 100, 102 maybe, because another guy who got signed was Devin Ross, who, played with the Michigan Panthers in 2022, transfers over to the XFL, got drafted in the supplemental draft, I believe, by the Brahmas, gets cut by the Brahmas, late training camp or, right when training camp brought by the Panthers, and then got put on injured reserve in like week 3. I don't think he recorded a statistic, and he just got signed by the Raiders to their practice squad after working out with them that Monday or something like that. Well, how does that happen? Who's the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders? Josh McDaniels. Where did Devin Ross spend a lot of practice squad and NFL training camp was New England in like 2019. Does the USFL or XFL really make or break a guy like that? I don't know. Is it the relationship? Probably, So you're going to have guys like that who might be air quote lesser known players that you're like, oh, how did this guy get signed over that guy? It's like, well, that's his college coach. That's probably why. Or his, college assistant was with that person. So that's something to keep tabs on as time goes on throughout the off season, in my opinion.
It's interesting to me, like, I don't know, because this is the point where we get kind of these questions of like, okay, so is this worth it, right? One guy from the XFL, Wheeland, right, made it on, and then obviously the USFL. Like, is it worth it? Was all of this and the numbers and the player 54 and kind of all that? Where do you stand with that?
I mean, it's always going to be worth it for specialists because it's pretty similar, right? So like punters and kickers and all that stuff, I think it's always going to be pretty similar. As far as is it worth it, I can't answer that question because I'm not Tino Ellis. I'm not, Ben DiNucci. I'm not any of these players, right? You have like a guy like DiNucci, chip on the shoulder, all that underdog stuff, right? The poor man's Baker Mayfield. I think at this point, especially with the player 54 mantra, or excuse me, well, actually, yes, the player 54 mantra with the show, I am willing to grasp that Ben DiNucci's brand is pretty on point right now. I'm willing to bet that financially he is doing pretty well. So when you have the opportunity, in my opinion, and I think the XFL and the USFL, are trying to do this a little bit more, And I think the USFL did a really good job in 2022. And then I feel like players took advantage of it in 2023, like Boogie Roberts and Scooby and whatnot. When these guys, and Magoo and Victor, but when these guys have the ability to be on a platform and essentially become pseudo celebrities in some sort of sense, I always think it's worth it. Anything that derives more traffic to who you are, whether it be, brand deals, whether it be, playing opportunities. To me, it's more than football. And I don't mean it like, oh, it's just a game more than football. I mean, like, it puts more eyeballs on you so people know who you are. And like, it allows them to have more opportunity, whether it be on the field or off the field, as far as getting more opportunities and jobs and whatnot.
We've seen here, like, obviously, Ben getting cut, then sticking around on the practice squad, Magoo as well here, right, with the Packers. Do you see, like, I mean, immediately it's like, oh, like Ben DiNucci back to the XFL now, like, I think Ben's gonna chill on the practice squad and be happy. Like, I don't see, I see Ben. The XFL was the one time, like, I'm doing this once, and I don't see Ben returning.
And I think Ben doesn't. I don't want to say he doesn't get back to the NFL without the XFL, but I think he goes from being that workout guy to, okay, we have 2 quarterbacks on our roster. We signed Ben DiNucci. We're good. As like, I think Magoo, obviously, I mean, the USFL is what brought Magoo back to the NFL. He was just a camp body, all that stuff, spent some time on and off practice squads, elevate, deactivate. Guys like that, they're back in this bad boy. They're back in the fold. They are rearing to go, and they probably could do what Garrett Gilbert did and extend their career for another 4 years, which for a guy like Gilbert, he made about $2.5 million doing that. With that being said, I could see, depending on what happens with Alex, that he would come back to the USFL for 2 reasons. One, if he goes to the NFL, plays there for 2 seasons, but is only on the practice squad, so he's making $400K over those 2 years, but doesn't get that shot, he's still going to be hungry. And he's also a celebrity in Birmingham at this point. For Ben, someone who's played in regular season games, has, and Alex could have off the field, income coming in. But for Ben, who might be, it's like, I'm an NFL starter or bust. If he doesn't get an opportunity, he might see that football is, kind of done in that part. So you can either play in the XFL, and I think he's got a bit of an ego, so I don't see him doing that. You'll always get your one-offs, in my opinion, like AJ McCarron, maybe a Josh Johnson that just kind of want to play football because fiscally they're good, and like they can air quote take that pay cut. But yeah, I mean, those two guys being the poster children as far as for the QB class, I think we would more likely see Alex Magoo back in the XFL or the USFL versus Ben DiNucci on either one of those leagues.
I always pay attention, like, this is, for what it is, this is a large platform for the world that we are in here. It's peanuts compared to what the NFL and all that stuff. But like, I always pay attention. Like, Ben had been on the show, we'd interacted, I had met him and thing. Like, if I try to like follow someone on Twitter, and I pay attention to like who is following people back or who is engaging with people. Like, Ben was always like, this is me. Like, I'm not. I don't know. Ben to me always felt like a half step above kind of like what was going on here, where maybe you're getting a little bit more interaction with, a lot of your Birmingham Stallions players or Breakers, or, we're talking with the Vipers guys or whatever. That was always kind of my view with that. In terms of overall numbers, surprise, better, worse, we've had this, the XFL is earlier and they have the upper hand, or the USFL is like, did you make anything about the timelines and how the numbers panned out?
I think the timeline definitely bodes well for the XFL. Something that, and if anyone listening could, kind of educate me on, was that I wish I kept more tabs on, was, were there XFL players released when the USFL ended? And I remember when I came on the show before, we went through the roster and we were like, okay, it's like, and Mike did it as well. It was like 24 available spots, right? And then the USFL guys, once like, that last week in July, first week of August, when the OTA injuries started coming, or like when we saw guys, for example, Seattle had a couple guys come in, they're UDFAs, 2023 guys, UDFAs, and then like as soon as their OTAs were over, they signed Levi Bell of Michigan Panthers and Jordan Ferguson of the Memphis Showboats. Like immediately, they cut these young kids and then brought up the And granted, Bell is a true rookie, but now he's got 5 or 6 games under his belt. It's a little bit more seasoned than someone else and whatnot. So it was cool. Not cool because these are people's jobs. So it was good to see that there wasn't a lot of as much cannibalization on that front. That a lot of these coaches and player personnel people valued the experience of these guys. Not only playing in a game, but also being in football shape. So if they are, air quote, coming in to be a camp body, they can provide that good look. And there's more value to give, your time and effort versus this guy versus a college kid who might have been a 7th round, 6th round pick, got his head all big because he got a $70,000 signing bonus and then didn't put in the rest of the work for 2.5 months going into training camp, which happens.
In terms of, I was looking the articles here, and again, this is fluid. But right now, when this was posted, 17 from the XFL, 12 from the USFL to the practice squads. To me, like you said, it's kind of negligible at this point. It could just be who and the time. I don't know. I think a lot's been made of, and even on this show, these timelines. I don't know. To me, that feels like a negligible difference. 17 versus 12. Am I making too little or too much of that?
Yes and no. The thing that the XFL has is, one, there's the body recovery, and 2, they can go to mini camp. They can go to those rookie mini camps. Like, the bulk of these rookie mini camp workouts happen during the USFL season. And from the XFL PR standpoint, even though it doesn't really mean anything, it's a great tweet. It's a great content engagement. Anytime any player I've ever talked to, came to, like Lavert Hill goes to these 2 workouts. Well, then all of a sudden I did an interview with Lavert Hill. I get a couple more views here and there. My stuff spikes. Their stuff spikes. Like it's good for content engagement. So I'm not against them like championing these workouts and whatnot, but at the same time, it does get you, those workouts do get you in front of these coaches and whatnot and players and all that goofy stuff. And it keeps you in the cycle. It keeps you in the circuit as well.
To me, and we talked about this, I guess it was last week when we were kind of getting ready for this. And, Greg Parks was on here and he had it interesting because we've talked the whole time about like marketing and the league and like what should the league's vision be. And Greg had the good point of like, well, up until now, right, the XFL doesn't have a lot of history, right? Like the Vipers, might not have any history after, whatever, but like, really relying on this player 54, the Rock, and like hoping here in year 2, 3, 4, 5, you start relying more on the history of these franchises versus just that. I think if they did not realize that now, I think now they do, right? I think for literally every interview The Rock's done, yes, like opportunities are great and they can say, okay, we gave these players the opportunity. That's all we can do. But, 17 on the practice squad, which clearly is nothing to sneeze at. And that's a good income for those guys. But to have one guy make it onto the roster, like it just
a punter, and he's a punter. He's going to be retweeting his punts like every Sunday.
It's hard, it's hard. And that's why I don't want to poo and opportunities, that's all anyone can ask for. And that's all these players. And obviously they're not playing in the XFL for free. So, I mean, they're getting paid and they're getting exposure and tape. And there's a million things. That's why 99.99999% of your marketing can't all be about, we get players in the NFL when it was one special teams punter. It's hard.
Yeah. And I believe they know that, but at the same time, like, it's kind of like, I don't want to put this in a negative connotation, but when you're starting a business, sometimes you got to work with clients you don't want to, right? And not that working with the NFL is a negative thing, but sometimes you gotta, I would think, in my opinion, that I would be more pumped about Jordan Teamu hitting 10,000 career passing yards in the XFL, because that shows longevity, and that shows, hey, we're here, we're here. Get used to it, right? I think some people could see that mantra I was going off of, but and I think the USFL started doing that, especially once the lawsuit, like, or the court case or whatever it is, and that's something I really liked, was like, they were posting, like, granted, there's the connotation of the modern record and whatnot, and I appreciate the clarification at this time. But in 3 years, the USFL is still kicking. Those modern records, Jim Kelly, like, you put a stat board up there, and you're going to have Case Cookus next to Jim Kelly. And those are all, that's great content. That to me means so much. And, like, thank you to Mark Thompson for scoring 14 touchdowns in 8 games, because now we have a graphic with guys who have career statistics and whatnot. Like, I think a tweet of, like, Jim Kelly passes, or Case Cookus passes Jim Kelly on the all-time USFL passing thing. You get Jim Kelly to retweet that, I'm sure Herschel Walker will retweet something if he gets passed over. He's active on Twitter. If not, I'll go to his, I'll go see him when I see him at the gas station next time I'm in Atlanta. I'll make sure he knows. I'll talk to his manager. But, that being said, like, I think obviously the USFL has the extra season. They have 3+ years. We didn't see a lot of that, like, with the stuff I was tweeting out, and I'm hoping now we get a little bit more, like, our league, and for both of them, like, our league, our players, our history, Papa John's.
Better football, better, real football, real fans, real pros, real all that stuff. Yeah, I hope, because I don't know, and we obviously had our friend with the USFL last year that was, people really pumped, like, oh man, we got 51 players signed and all this stuff, and then the dust settles and it's Cavante Turpin's left, and you're like, what were your, as someone that was not familiar with the world before the USFL last year, like, what were their expectations, going into, like, how many players were actually going to make it? And when Cavante Turpin is left, and by God, he had a phenomenal season and all pro and kind of all that stuff, but, like, it goes away very quick, that excitement.
Yeah, and it does. And something I wish, and this is me being very, very petty, but something I wish they highlighted was a gentleman named Mitch Fabroni. He's a long snapper. He only played 4 games last year, but he had 5 tackles as a long snapper, which some long snappers don't get 5 in 2 years. He was like the top tackling long snapper in his 4-game stint. Does anyone care about that graphic? Probably not. But I think that's still content. That's still a tweet. It's someone other than Cavante Turpin. Maurice Alexander had a reception last year. Maurice, former Stars, gets his first career reception. Like little stuff like that. And then something, because these back end roster guys, especially the ones I talk to, they follow these leagues. They know that, like, football isn't coming up as much as they might want it to. So for them to get a few extra Twitter followers because you're shouting them out, or Instagram, they're millennial, they're Gen Z. They care about that stuff. The millennials are on their way out of this game. We're pretty conceited and whatnot in social media, but this new one is a little bit more up there. I think that shows that this league is, like, championing these leagues, or championing their players and whatnot. Like, like, hey, you didn't forget about me. Like, I was an inaugural guy, like, I think that's something to be taken into account personally. And maybe that's just me being really petty and whatnot, but that's something I would want to see. And I think it's good off-season content, because, like, you can only see, like, a graphic of, like, Nick Tiano works out for the Bills, or, like, hey, we signed this player type thing.
The one last thing for me here, we'll wrap this up soon. USFL has obviously put out, and we showed the Brandon Aubrey graphic, those with their Twitter feed. XFL hasn't tweeted out, like, congrats Dan on making the, to the Packers. So interesting there, they're tweeting that back to school stuff and Labor Day. So that's interesting. And again, like, when it comes to kind of expectations of what this league, we have a lot of, like, we're talking about the showcases that's coming up here, and we tweeted that out, I guess, last week. But it's interesting. None of this, like, none congrats, we got a player on. So that, to me, is interesting as well because they just tweeted Labor Day sale here an hour ago. So interesting that the XFL hasn't, was that number not as high as they thought? I would imagine so.
Yeah, I mean that's not like, I mean, they could be making the graphics now. I mean, the USFL, I love the USFL graphic. I mean, both of them. That, like, to me, that's pretty on point. The Aubrey one I liked a lot. I mean, they did a lot of good stuff with Turpin. Their signing one were pretty cool as well. I wish they had the graphic where it was like we've had 10, 20, 30, because I liked that a lot last year as well, especially during the summer. I'm usually pretty busy, so it's like, okay, I have 9 guys. They said they announced 10. What's going on type thing. I did like the XFL's graphics when guys were getting workouts as well. I thought that was kind of cool. Just really curious to see, if they're going to do a graphic. What I would do if I was the XFL is I would make like a team photo, of them like stacked and whatnot, like their players. And like I would put the number 17 or whatever the number is. I'd probably do that next week before the game on Thursday. Week 1 kicks off because these rosters are going to change a lot. And I would think that would be a pretty cool tweet if they did that, like 17 players on practice squad going into week 1, like something goofy like that.
Yeah, I'm just looking on here. I just don't see, just a lot of like we had here the switching back, 50 player, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I would have done something there. Like I said, it could be at the point where it's not maybe what they expected. So I'll be curious to see. I wish I could be in those rooms. I really do.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the if you numbers liars don't figure, or numbers don't lie, liars figure, right? Or whatever the thing is you can make statistics say whatever you want, right? So like one thing I like championed with the USFL last year was the amount of money made. So like those 28 players made $8 million, almost $9 million collectively, right? So I'm like, okay, that's $9 million because of the USFL. Like you put it back in there. Like that's something that like, if one of these leagues is lesser, like as far as players signed, you kick it back. It's like, well, our players, you put the graphic out and you say like $22 million made because, Turpin is going to give you a little bit more. I wish you brought it. They kind of embrace some of the 2020 stuff players a little bit more. I feel like it's been kind of infrequent. Have we seen Heineke could have got a couple of retweets. I feel like last year there was really nothing. I like to believe moving forward where, because you got the people, I'm sure there's people in the XFL who didn't know Taylor Heineke even exists, like was on the Battlehawks.
Well, and to your point at the beginning of the conversation, does Heineke get that shot with Washington because of the XFL or because he knew Rivera back with the Carolina?
Rivera and Scott Turner. Scott Turner was the OC, which, you got to do what you got to do. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to retweet Taylor Heineke if I'm the Battlehawks. No. Because now you got people in Atlanta caring because you work out a little drug deal with that and you say, hey, Atlanta Falcons, can you retweet that? You could do a we had them first type thing. And him, chugging the beers and whatnot, especially if he does that with the Falcons, they could be like, oh, we've seen this before. I'm a marketing major over here.
The last thing I was going to say was when they were showing those, you liked when they were showing the numbers of those like 10 players signed because you might have 9, because otherwise then like you're driving to a gig and someone tweets at you a question of like how many players got signed and you respond and then you have people like actually it was whatever. Like I do my best to keep track of this stuff. I don't always know. I try. I work. Pat works, but we got a lot going on. But anything else, Pat? We'll get out of here.
Nah. Congrats. I feel like we probably, of the 100 players, we probably have 4 that probably will watch this. But if congrats to everyone who worked out for an NFL team, that went to a showcase, that went to the grid camps. Congrats to all the players who are trying to make it happen. You guys have had way more NFL workouts than anyone at News Hub combined.
That is very true. Very true. I like that. I was just watching this morning Charles Barkley like hate talking about Skip Bayless, about people like, Skip talks like he knows all this. He's never played anything. So there you go. Yeah, congratulations. Shout out. You have more than any of the News Hub and probably that Discord as well. Probably more tryouts than any of those players. So I appreciate it, Pat. We'll figure out a big episode this week with Randy Ambrosie and everything else. So we'll figure out what we're gonna do next. But I hope you guys are subscribed, and we'll see you next time. Well, the man of the hour here back on the show, Cody Fajardo. We talked with you kind of leading into the season. Now we're midway through. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. It's team 6-4. Can't complain. Been a lot of positives. Obviously a tough game last week, but a lot of positives this year for sure.
It's been weird watching you. You're, Montreal Alouettes, my team of the East. You're watching you, new colors, new kind of everything. What's it, just personally, what's it been like here halfway through the season?
Honestly, proved a lot of things to myself that I can still win in this league, because everyone knows how it ended last year in Sask and not winning a game, our last 7 or 8 games or whatever it was. So to be able to go out and to lead our team to some victories and to be sitting in second place in the East is a good feeling. Obviously, we want to be in that first spot. Everybody does, and everyone wants that bye week. But we've played some really good teams. Our roster, we haven't forgot that a lot of people picked us to be 9th in the CFL to start the year. And so looking at our roster, we are young, pretty inexperienced, but we're finding ways to win games. And I believe we haven't played our best football yet, and the best is kind of yet to come. And you don't want to be on fire early on in the season. You want to be on fire towards the end of the season. So that's what excites me.
It seems like it's, it takes time, and obviously, you have familiarity with coach and everything, but, coming in, kind of assembling all the pieces, has it come together better than you had hoped?
Absolutely. I think the culture that Danny and Coach Moss are building is the reason why we've won so many games early on in the season, because if you looked at us on paper, you would read a lot of names and be like, who is that? Who is that? A lot of first-year players, a lot of guys that were kicked off their old team, or their old teams just didn't want them anymore. So kind of a band of misfit toys that are coming together and playing some collective football. And we're playing some good football teams here these next couple of weeks, and we'll really have a good measure of what our team is and where we need to go. But it's not going to happen overnight, and it takes time to build a tradition, to build culture. But the fact that we're here sitting second in the East with the team, just the whole overhaul that we did in the offseason with this team makes you feel like we're doing the right things here.
Tough loss here last, what was it, Friday? Crazy there, Winnipeg, loud. What's it like kind of playing at Rabid? I saw BC Lions go in there a couple weeks ago and not do well either. It's a difficult place to win. What's it like playing there?
Yeah, it's just very difficult. And obviously the atmosphere is tough, but that's been the best team in the CFL the last 3 years and dominant in the CFL. If you look at their record, I think they're 8-2 or 9-2 right now. And they're playing at a high level. Their defense is veteran, very experienced, just a tough place to go in there and win. And, no excuses, but we obviously we had a short week, didn't have any time to practice. And when you have a young roster, you need time to work out some of those kinks, work out some of those things throughout practice, especially when you're going against the 3-time, they've gone to 3 Grey Cups in a row. So the scheduling didn't do us any favors, but we also laid a goose egg. Personally, I think I hold myself to a higher standard. I hold our offense to a higher standard than what we've displayed last week. And so the good news is I know we're going to be a ton better. We have a full week of prep going into this BC game. And we're just excited to kind of wash that bad taste out of our mouth and be back home in front of our great fans.
Well, it's interesting because BC's had a couple, I think they're trying to get the taste out of their mouth as well. Really curious to see what the matchup's going to look like, because both of you guys, I think, have something to prove this weekend.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think they've lost their last 2, and so they're going to be extremely hungry for a win. Everyone knows that Vernon used to be here, and so I know that might be a little bit bigger game for him just because he's back in his old town. But to tell you the truth, if you look at the standings, they're second in the West and we're second in the East, and this has a lot of implications moving forward. And so we know that they're a great football team. We've played them already at their place, and they have got the best of us. And so we want to defend home turf, and we know that they're going to come in here and give us everything they got. And I hope that they understand that we're going to do everything we can to protect our home turf and get a big win in front of our incredible fans.
How are you feeling coming back? Right, shoulder injury here the last couple weeks. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, I'm feeling great after the game. There was no setbacks. I think we did the right thing of resting me. Obviously, I could have gutted through it, but everything that we talked about last year with my knee injury and talked with Coach Moss, we didn't want to have the same thing, something linger the entire season. So the fact that I was able to go out there and finish the game and not have any setbacks was huge, which make me think we made the right decision. But, going off of 2 weeks, no practice, and then a full week of no practice going into a Winnipeg place, it was just a tough thing. But as a veteran quarterback, you have to go out there and you have to get it done. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. So that's why I know this week I'll be much better. I'll be more settled in. I won't be thinking about the injury, whether it's going to hold up or not. All those uncertainties that you go into the game, you kind of have in that first game. And then after you play that first game, it's like, okay, it's back to football. So I know I'll be much better. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to just hit the field again and just feel like myself and go out there and move the offense down the field and finish with 7 points in the red zone.
We've seen this year, obviously, injuries with you and obviously, Mazzoli going down and Trevor Harris, everything else. Having a backup like Caleb Evans for you, like how important is it to kind of have that cohesive quarterback room that you guys have?
Well, I've been in the CFL long enough to understand you have to have two great quarterbacks to win in this league. Just about every year, the starter goes down for at least a game, and that's every team. And I've seen that year after year after year. So you have to have capable backups to come in and play. And the fact that Caleb came in and played well in a short time and won us 2 football games so that we weren't looking on the bottom of the standings looking up. We maintained our position going into this tough stretch which was Winnipeg, BC, and Toronto back-to-back. So being able to have to win the games that we believe that we can win and then compete against the top teams in the league. But I'm so proud of him and the work that he put in. It's not easy being a backup quarterback in this league, and I've been a backup quarterback in this league. You kind of sit around, and all of a sudden you get called upon and you got to go do everything that the starter does. And so I was very impressed with the way he handled himself and the way he's worked all year. And I know he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder playing his old team in Ottawa. And sometimes you need that little extra added motivation to go out there and perform well. And that was a hell of a victory. And like I said, going 2-0 with all the injuries we've had, not only just me at the quarterback, but just our entire team. We've had a lot of injuries this year. I think we had somewhere around 16 guys on the 6 games. So we've had the injury bug a little bit, and we've found ways to win games through it.
Exciting here, with Montreal new ownership coming in. Have you been able to kind of experience or kind of take benefit of that, just kind of fresh perspective coming in?
Absolutely. I think it's hard for me to compare because I obviously have never been a part of this program. But from what I've talked to the veteran guys who've been around this program, the team is really making the players feel like the emphasis in the product. And anytime you get that, you feel wanted, you feel rewarded, and you feel like you want to do everything you can to win as many football games as you can. So they've done a tremendous job from the top all the way down to making us players feel, the most important thing in the building. And that you don't really get that everywhere in professional football. And that's what I respect most about this organization is truly making us. And even when we have a bad game like we did last week with Winnipeg, nobody hit the panic button. The coaches didn't yell at us any harder. Management didn't come down and clear the locker room out or try to sign a bunch of guys. They believe in us, and they keep telling us that they believe in us, and they're really showing that. And so when you have the backing of the management, it really makes you as a player feel good and make you want to put in that extra work to make sure we get it to where we need to go, which is winning a Grey Cup.
In terms of just, making the move going into the season, we had talked when you were on here before, kind of not unhappy, but wanting to get out of kind of Saskatchewan and everything going on. How are you feeling now, headspace and everything kind of, has it worked out as you have anticipated?
Absolutely. I mean, just to be a starting quarterback in this league, I told you guys, I think going into this, I didn't even know if I'd have an opportunity to be a starting quarterback again. And so I'm just so grateful for that. I don't know how many years I have left. Nobody really does in professional sports. So I'm going to cherish every moment I have. And even through the butt whippings like last week, just being able to be on the field with my guys. You sit out 2 weeks with an injury, and even the losses, they hurt. But the fact that you're on the field again and you're playing a sport that you love is truly incredible. So we're at the point in the season now that there's no bad blood, no negativity towards Sask. You know, obviously throughout the offseason, there's a lot of media buildup. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of articles that come out. We're at the point now where we're so entrenched in the season that it's kind of gone our separate ways. It is unfortunate that I was injured for that game, and it was actually my 100th CFL game as well. So there was a lot of meaning behind that game with Sask, but wasn't able to play it. But happy the team got the win, and a lot of guys came up to me after the game and kind of gave me that one was for you. And so it just makes you feel respected and appreciated from your brothers in the locker room.
A couple more here, I'll let you go. I appreciate your time. Are you enjoying, Montreal and everything? I mean, new environment. What do you like, about where you're staying?
A night and day difference from where I was in Sask. And don't get me wrong, I love Sask and I love the football aspect of it where it's football 24/7. But sometimes being able to just be a normal human and not be that A-list celebrity is nice, where you can go out to dinner and just kind of lay low. Or, there's a lot of great food spots here in Montreal. And I don't think I've even scraped the surface of how many food places I can go and eat. But it seems like every place I've chosen has been extremely good. And a lot of people talked about, the facilities or the fans here, and I haven't seen that. I feel like this is a professional atmosphere. I've felt the love through our fans, even when we've been winning, when we've been losing. Our game days have been rocking. So a lot of uncertainty that I've kind of had going into the season just because I didn't know were answered fairly quickly. And so I'm extremely happy to be where I'm at. And hopefully I can be, the quarterback for this organization for the long haul and set ourselves up nicely and win some playoff games and hopefully hoist that Grey Cup over our head.
Yeah, that was going to be my last question. Obviously Saskatchewan known, right? Rabbitohs fans and all of that, but Montreal is no slouch as well, and they show up and they've got the horns and all that kind of stuff. What have you made of that? And are you pro air horn here in Montreal?
I'm extremely pro air horn. I was definitely against it playing here because it was just annoying and loud, and it made it hard on opposing teams. But that's how we get our fans to get involved, and it makes it tough on the opposing team. So any chance we can get, and now I love the horns going because I'm usually on the sideline when I hear them going crazy because our defense is out there. And like I said, the fan base has been truly incredible, and they've came out to our games. We've had 3 games that have been delayed because of lightning, and 2 of them were home games. Another 2 were in the rain in home, and our fans stuck around, made it loud for the opposing team in the rain. And that just goes to show that there's a lot of passionate football fans here in Montreal. It just kind of gets overlooked because it's such a big city. But when you see those fans on game day wearing jerseys, wearing Montreal gear, it truly makes you feel like, yeah, this is professional football. And so I appreciate them very much. They've been very welcoming to me, and nobody's hit the panic button when we've lost games. Sometimes you lose in Sask and it's all about football, and you can kind of feel that pressure. You can feel that because people start talking, people stop you and talk about the loss. But here it's been a warm welcoming, and they've really opened up to my family. And so I'm extremely blessed and happy to be here.
Well, Cody, I appreciate your time. Busy week here. My heart will be torn this weekend watching the Lions and the Alouettes, but it means a lot. You got a lot of people cheering for you, and I really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Always great to catch up with you, and appreciate you having me on the show.
Awesome. Bone chance, and we'll have a good game this weekend. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.
Well, here we are coming off a hot couple weeks now for the Edmonton football team. Steven Dunbar, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm blessed. Can't complain at all, man.
What are you doing today? You done with practice, or what's going on headed into the weekend?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I finished with practice, man. Got back from the facility not too long ago. Probably just kind of hang out right now, look over the game plan, and just kind of continue to prepare for this big game we got coming up this week.
Different vibe here the last couple weeks with everything going on. We finally got a couple of victories under our belt. How are the guys?
Man, the morale is different, around the building. Of course, you got a couple wins under your belt. It's just a good feeling. I think it was big for our team to realize that, we can win, you know what I mean? And, and how that feels and what it looks like to prepare to win. So, yeah, the morale is great around the facility so far. And now the challenge is to not get complacent and continue to keep working towards, getting better.
Yeah, what was kind of the messaging? Obviously, you guys had the big, win against Hamilton a couple weeks back, but then having the win at home here over the weekend, how was that?
Man, that was great. Obviously we hadn't had a win there in a while. So I think it was big for our organization, big for the city to finally, get a win in front of our home crowd. And it's kind of the goal, I think. I know as our team, just to kind of get, this city behind us and understanding that we can be a really good football team.
What's it been like so far this season? Because Rocky is, to say the least. What's it been like for you here up in Edmonton?
Man, it's been rough, man. Honestly, when you're losing, it's always kind of tough. But other than that, man, we got a good group of guys on our team that we stuck together throughout the whole adversity and of just losing and putting in work and not seeing the results. So it's like I said, it's been tough, but I like the guys I play with, and so it kind of makes it easy to come to work.
Yeah, talking about that good camaraderie in the locker room, even with everything going on.
Yeah, man, I think a lot of the guys, genuinely like each other. We hang out, even when we're not, in a football facility. We go grab food, we hang out, we kick it all the time. So we're actually kind of friends outside of football. So that kind of makes it cool to, come to work and be able to work with guys that you actually like. I think a lot of the guys will say the same thing,
Well, because I mean, a few years back, Edmonton, and this was even probably before your time there, but was kind of known, wasn't quite the happiest place to come to work. So it's good to hear morale and locker room and everything's good.
Yeah. It's definitely the culture is definitely shifting. So.
We had Trey Ford on preseason, was excited to talk with him. Obviously now he's getting tremendous success and start. What's it like having him kind of leading you guys down the field?
No, it's great. It's great. He has a different type of spark to our offense, to our team. And I'm just happy for him, man. He's been through a lot this year, a lot of ups and downs throughout his career, basically just, trying to find himself. And I mean, it's cool to be a part of him kind of blossoming into the player that he is and who he's becoming. And, I'm excited. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see kind of where he takes the rest of the season and in his career, moving forward.
What do you view how do you view what he adds to your guys' offense?
He's dynamic in a lot of ways, man. So I know it gives defenses a lot of headaches of how they defend, how explosive we are on the outside and perimeter. And we got a great back and Kevin Bryan, and you bring Trey Ford in there, and it's like, okay, what we gonna do? You know what I mean? I think that's the element that Trey kind of brings to our offense. Is like, okay, we got a plan to stop all these guys, but then it's like, okay, now we got to figure out a way to have the Trey, So I think just by him being able to be in that present, it opens up the door for, everybody to have, their opportunity to make plays as well. So yeah, he's dynamic, man. So it's, it opens up everything.
You've had a good year, regardless of kind of the success of the team, and now everything's kind of coming together. How have you stayed motivated to keep performing here with everything going on?
I just believe in consistency, man. I'm not really too attached to the outcome of things. I'm a big process guy. I just believe that, if you stick true to the things that you set out to do, when you started, and you kind of, a lot of ebbs and flows of things happening to go on, and you just stay consistent, that eventually you end up on the other side of it. I just kind of kept that mindset throughout the year, man. Just staying consistent in my routine, staying consistent with what I bring to the team and on a day-to-day basis, and just being who I am, and regardless of the environment and what's going on. And it's helped me out, man. So
in terms of your guys, the coaching staff there, you feel like they're taking care of you guys? How do you feel like it works alongside kind of players and coaching?
Man, I think it's really good. I think we got a really good players coach in Chris Jones, who likes to make sure that we feel good on game day. We got a bunch of coaches, especially on the offensive side of the ball and defensive side of the ball, that really are players or were former players. So they really understand kind of the life, the mentality, the mindset, the things that we're dealing with on the field. And also kind of how we think, while we're out there, and the things that we're looking for is individuals and as an offense. And we connect, in that way, even just man to man, person to person, we actually have, conversations all the time, between our coaches and players. And, it's cool. Like I said, a lot of those guys are former players. So, conversations are easy when you're trying to, tell them what you're seeing out there on game day, or if you're in the meeting room and you're wondering, why we're doing a certain thing, why we calling a certain thing. It's easy for them to talk to us. So, yeah, man, it's a dope little environment in there, man.
In terms of Edmonton as a whole, kind of historic CFL franchise, does that you think about that, City of Champions and everything they call it, or I mean, how do you want to kind of carry on, I guess, that legacy up there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously you come here and you look all over this facility, you look all over the stadium, and you hear about all these great cups that they've won and all the success they've had in the past. And it's kind of like, I first got up here, and it's almost like, the city is almost looking for that, that team again. You know what I mean? That organization again, to get behind us, to support like they did all those years before. So obviously, as a player who's coming here and establishing a new home here, you obviously want to do that for, for the community, for the fans, and, be the person who, gets that train rolling.
Do you like Edmonton? Do you like Edmonton as a city? What do you like to do there?
Yeah, it's cool, man. I always tell people, ask me all the time, like it's not like a big crazy big city. I'm from New Orleans. I went to school in Houston, so I've done the whole big city thing. But it's like I said, it's good enough, man. You got places to go out to eat. It's a little couple of places to, if you want to go out, have a drink, a few. Definitely good for that. They have parties, festivals, and all type of stuff going on. So it's kind of that happy medium. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I spent like a week and a half in New Orleans years ago, and that was probably 5 days too long. It was
Yeah. You just probably need about 3 days.
That did me in there. Too many trips on Bourbon Street.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
You looking for it? I mean, we got, Edmonton winter coming up here. It's one thing to be in August, beautiful summers. What's it like there playing in the cold when it comes around?
Man, I heard that the winters here are brutal, man. It's gonna be my first time kind of experiencing it firsthand. But I mean, this is prime football. This kind of where it's like that wall. You know what I mean? Coming into the winter after Labor Day, that's when the season kind of gets down to it. You know what I mean? So as a competitor, you look forward to it. You know what I mean? And see who gonna play well when it's when they're not playing healthy, when they're all excited about the season, when things aren't really going how they thought it would go. And kind of when those kind of people, the cream of crop, kind of rise to the top. So just with my few years up here, I've noticed, what I'm saying, after Labor Day, it kind of, that's like when the real season kind of starts.
Well, you guys are coming in your own here, going into Calgary, kind of big divisional game, and obviously you guys are not out of it really statistically here with everything and how the West is. How are you getting up for the game this weekend? Because it really would be important for you guys to kind of ride that momentum.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, it's obvious that our destiny is in our own hands here. We just gotta do what we have to do, and we can kind of rewrite the story of our season. You know what I mean? So, I mean, obviously, it's plain as day that the opportunity is there, but I think the message is to take it one day at a time, one play at a time, one game at a time, and just kind of be in the moment. Because if we get too ahead, then it's like, it does no good for us. You know what I mean? So I think the message for our team is just to kind of stay focusing on where we at. You know what I mean? And actually definitely ride this momentum. And I think Chris Jones told us that after the first game, to really take in how this feels. You know what I mean? Like, far as just winning, and like, bro, this is how this feels. This is what it feels like. Like, get used to it. Like, know what it is that you did to prepare to do this, and allow yourself to continue to keep doing that. And that's got to be the focus for our team. You know what I mean? So,
I guess my last question, you talk about Coach Jones, and, there's been a lot of media stuff lately with, God, you got to get rid of him or whatever. Like, even through all the adversity you guys have been through, has he been able to kind of keep you guys like all locked in? Do you feel that? Are you like on board with him and what's going on?
Yeah. I'm 100% on board with him. I think everybody on our team, coaches and players and support staff are standing behind him 100%. I believe in him. I believe in the staff that he's put around us. I believe in the team that he put together. And like I said, it's just a matter of us coming together. We had a really young team. a lot of guys were first and second year CFL players. And I just think, it was a lot of obstacles that we had to go through, and we just had to really find a way to figure out how to win. You know what I mean? And I think guys are maturing, guys are understanding, what it is, what it looks like to win, and how you win up here. And yeah, man, I think obviously schematically and coaching and culture, all that stuff got to gel and work in the same direction. You know what I mean? So it takes time. Sometimes teams get that, right out the gate. Sometimes teams take time to kind of figure that out, and I think we just had to take a time to kind of figure it out. It wasn't a Chris Jones. Obviously, he's the head guy, so he's going to take the brunt of it. But it's an organizational thing as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Where everybody got to buy in, everybody got to, it's difficult to get a whole organization working in the same direction. So, like I said, I'm excited to see what we're doing moving forward. And like I said, you know how it goes when you're losing. Everybody got something bad to say, and then when you win, it's like, like it never happened. So.
Well, good luck. I lived and died through the last couple of games you guys have had, and the Winnipeg that week, and then everything over the weekend. So I wish you guys luck, and I got a lot of friends up in Edmonton. So good luck with everything.
Yeah, sir. I appreciate you having me on the show, man.
Thank you. Huge special thanks to all the guests today, everyone over at the CFL offices, Lucas, everyone for making Randy Ambrosie available. Really appreciate that, him taking time on an American podcast. I remember the first time Randy came on, it was one of the 3 down. It was like the Roughnecks, or not the Roughnecks, the Red Blacks podcast was like, how could Randy Ambrosie go on an American XFL podcast? Well, here we are, three guest appearances later. Really appreciate that. Thanks, Lucas. Like I said, everyone over the CFL offices, Commissioner Ambrosie, everything with that. Pat, making time, tracking all the players. And it was a busy week. Like our group chat was just crazy, trying to keep up. And okay, who signed? Okay, they're they're waived. They're back on the practice squad. So hope we did good. I know that's still kind of a fluid situation, but I think Pat and I did as good enough job as we could, kind of getting you recapped on all of that. Special thanks to Cody Fajardo, Francis, everyone over there, and then Hernan over with the Elks, getting Steven Dunbar and all of that. Super appreciate it. You guys, like I said, like and subscribe. Enjoy the episode this weekend. Real football coming next weekend, next Thursday. Very excited for that. Mariners are in the playoff hunt. Commanders are going to be playing. Really a time to be alive here. Cracking preseason starting soon. So hope you guys enjoy. Like and subscribe. See you next time. Thanks.